For TraderInsight.com, I'm Adrian Mans. I've got the privilege today of being here with my friend Mark Bibbs. We call him Bibbs. You guys all know him as Bibbs. He's a caricature of himself almost sometimes, I think, and everybody knows that character, loves that character. And most of you know him from the First Hour Trading Pit. A lot of you know him from boot camp, where you met him, a couple boot camps. And I just thought it'd be a good opportunity to sit down and talk to somebody who went to the boot camp, studied like crazy, got himself really proficient in everything, got up and running really quick, managed to start working right there at the boot camp, working the trades, and just sort of talk to him about what it was like, getting into this process and what it was like, building his trading business and sort of sticking with it. So Mark, I'm going to let you fill us in on sort of where we started at the Traders Expo, I think in Las Vegas, right, at the Money Show in Las Vegas in 2018.
That's right.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Adrian. Hey folks, I'm Mark Bibbs. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I've been a member of Trader Insight for a little over 2 years, 2 years and a month. Back in 2018, I had gone to the Money Show in Las Vegas after having been trading off and on my own for 20 years, since 1998. So I'd been like a lot of you. I'd made money and lost money, and made money and lost money, and made a lot of money and lost a lot of money. And in 2013, I had taken a break from the practice of law to try my hand at day trading myself, and just do it every day and see if I could make consistent good money. And I did, but I made one mistake, and I hope a lot of you talking haven't made this mistake, or if you have, you'll know what I'm talking about. I met a guy at the local mall. He had a kiosk, and he was selling packages for traders, and it was about a couple $100 a month, and he would email stocks to trade. And it turned out that a lot of those stocks were penny stocks. And before I knew it, I'd lost about $80,000 over the course of 3 months. So then I went back to trading what I knew always made me money, with swing trading actually, with Wendy's, Bank of America, McDonald's, Walmart, stocks like that. And then in 2014, I returned to my office to practice law again. When I was in law school 25 years ago at the University of North Carolina in 1995 and graduated, I decided that I wasn't going to practice law all my life, that I wanted to be done in about 25 years after I'd hopefully made enough money practicing law to where I was comfortable and happy that I would retire. So in May of 2018, I went to the Money Show. I went to the Money Show for one reason, and that was to find somebody in some program that talked about pattern day trading in a way that could make me $1,000 or more consistently every day. And I sat through all of the seminars on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and I didn't find not one person, not one group that said what I was looking to hear. And then the last day on Wednesday afternoon at 4 o'clock, the very last seminar was his. How to make $1,000 every morning consistently in the market. Well, of course, the room was jam-packed. And so I had to stand up in the back. But after Adrian finished his presentation, some people got up to leave. Well, I got up and moved to the third or fourth row up front, and then I started essentially deposing Adrian, asking a lot of questions, because I wanted to be sure that this was the real thing, that I wasn't having, deja vu of something that I'd seen before. Excuse me. But I went, and I listened, and I talked. And then after we were finished, Adrian and Victor and I went outside in the lobby and sat at the table and talked some more. And he had only a few slots left to join the first hour trading pit and get the plans, the XRV plan, which is what he was talking about that day. So I gave him a credit card and I signed up. The next week there were no plans because he was at boot camp in Miami, probably teaching some of you, I hope. So I traded. Did the XRV trades June, July, and August, and made about $3,000 some dollars like that every month. And I had promised Adrian I was going to come to boot camp when the time was right, and I was hoping to do it in November of 2018, but I couldn't. I had a case set first for trial in federal court in North Carolina the week of boot camp, and so I couldn't go. So after the holidays of 2018, then I decided to try and drill down to get ready to go to boot camp. So I called and talked to Adrian in January, and I talked to Victor. And I bought the course, the Income Trading Academy, and they shipped me the big box from LA, and I started going through the Income Trading Academy. And I watched the 20 hours in February, and I watched them through, and I took very detailed and copious notes, which I hope you do too. But as boot camp started to approach, I wanted to drill down on one trade, and that was the Apple trade. That was the one thing I wanted to go for. So for those of you who did this in high school or maybe in college, which is cramming for an exam at the last minute, you can't do that with this. If you wait to the last minute to take the Income Trading Academy, say a week or two before boot camp, you don't need to waste your time coming. You can come to boot camp again 6 months later after you've had an opportunity to go through the Income Trading Academy on your own twice. So 20 hours and then another 20 hours, take some time off. I took a couple weeks off. And then you'll be ready. So when I got to boot camp in Miami on Sunday, we all met. We had a little reception in Adrian and Julie's suite. And the next morning, when I got downstairs to the room, Adrian was ready to go at 9 o'clock. And when the bell rang at 9:30, I was ready. And that first morning, I made a little over $1,500 in about 3 or 4 minutes. Now, I don't know if that's usual or customary at boot camp, but I did it. And then I stopped trading. That's something that's hard to do. But I was trying to ingrain myself then that once you make your money, you make your profit, quit. Turn your computer off, log out of your account, sit on your hands. Well, that's something that's hard for me to do even now, so I don't want to be hypocritical. I tell you, I try to do that. Most days I do that, but then there are some days where I'm in the room, I listen to Adrian, I listen to Gore, and I listen to Julie, and I hear about another stock, Apple included, that's going to be another $1. I mean, I did it a couple of weeks ago with Julie on Alibaba. After I'd finished with Apple and made my $1,000, Julie comes in the room and she says, I think Baba's going to be good for another $2. I'm not advising you to take that, but it's going to be good for another $2 from where I'm sitting. So what I do, I hadn't done any homework on Alibaba that previous night, so I bought it. Bought 1,000 shares of it. And true to form, Julie was right. It went up at least $2 more from the previous high that morning, and I made $2,000. But after that, I logged off and quit trading for the day. And a lot of times, I haven't done that, and that's something that is a work in progress. It's just hard to resist going back in. But one thing that does consistently happen, this is not a joke, when I do go back in after the first half hour, 9 times out of 10, I wind up giving my profit back to the market. I lose, no matter what it is, including Apple. Because the first 30 minutes, first 45 minutes are the golden minutes where you're going to get in, you're going to make your money, depending on what share size you have. You can make $500,000, maybe $2,000, depends on your account. And I'm not going to tell you how much is in my trading account because that's not really relevant. But each of you out there, if you have the ability to put at least $50,000 in a trading account, can do exactly what I do right now. That's all you really need. You can have more, but you don't need it.
I think there's a lot of interesting takeaways from this part of the conversation, and one of them is this notion of discipline. So obviously Bibbs is down here with us at our beach house on Balboa Island. He came out to visit with us. A lot of you guys come here. This is not an unfamiliar setting for many of you. We sort of powwow with everybody here. And last night we were having a conversation with people, and one of the things that people I think had most questions about was sort of, well, you know, how do you time the trades? How do you discipline yourself? And what we came around to was some people had dollar targets for how much they needed to earn over the course of the day. Other people had time targets. And I said, you know, I'd really rather see people have sort of a time of day that's a cutoff. And what you wind up doing is saying you're a specialist in the first hour, which I think is really what you are, even though you tend to make sort of the same amount of money during that time every day. You're sort of the first half hour even of the trading day is where the volatility is that you know how to wrangle, you know how to rope in and just really work with. But it's the fact that he stays disciplined and doesn't let a day get him down. Because I know there's been plenty of days where things didn't go the way that you expected them to. And you just come back the next day and you do it again, right?
Right.
And the other thing that a lot of you, I'm sure, heard was, $1,500 or $1,000 and 1,000 shares. And here's what I need you to have as a takeaway from that. This is a guy who worked in a field all of his adult life, all of his professional life, that required him to sort of stake big risks. So he's working in a justice system that rewards him if his client wins. And in the process of getting a client to win, Bibbs had to evaluate whether he was in front of a good opportunity, in front of a story that made sense, and if it wasn't the client who was bankrolling the case, it was Bibbs who was bankrolling it. And the payout came in the form of he had done his homework correctly, he had prepared for this thing, he was diligent, and then the discipline is what got him paid. Very similar to what he's doing now. And I think that, where the problem comes in for some of the traders is they approach this thing more like a day job. And they feel like, well, they're going to go in and I'm going to work, and then when I'm done working, I'm going to get paid. Like punching the time clock, right? So you're going to work in the morning, and what you expect is if I work 8 hours, I'm going to get paid for 8 hours. Not that if I don't maintain my discipline and I don't do everything exactly the way that I'm supposed to do it, my job's actually going to take money away from me, right? So that's a very tough transition from people. But what's it like for you, having gone from the job you went to every day to now sitting around after the first hour, not having to go back and work? Is it tough to keep your fingers off the keyboard?
No, let me say this to those of you who know what lawyers do. Some of you may be lawyers. I was a plaintiff's civil trial lawyer for all of my 25 years in practicing law. What that means is I represent injured people, whether it's a wrongful death case, a medical malpractice case, a major car accident, tractor trailer litigation, or a sexual harassment matter. And I took all those cases on what you call a contingency fee basis, which means whatever I got out of the case, whatever my client got, I took 40%. So the client would not be responsible for the cost of the litigation. I'd pay all of that myself out of pocket. Of course, I'd get it back if we won the case. If we lost the case, then I'd lose all of it. So in that vein, that's not too different from what I do now, because you have to have a very high risk tolerance. So I have a high risk tolerance, so I don't swing for the fences all the time, but one of the things that you must realize is you can and will lose money in this. You have to. In order to make money, you're going to have to lose some money and figure out why you lost it. So I don't make money every day. I make more money more days than I don't, which has allowed me to do it as I do. But after that first hour, to answer your question, I generally go for a walk around my neighborhood, sometimes with my dog, sometimes not, and I come back and take a shower. And in this COVID-19, I'm stuck in the house, so I eat lunch and do a lot of watching of Netflix, I'm ashamed to say, or Amazon Prime, read some books, and return phone calls, return emails. But and of course, there are days, I'm trying to be honest here, no, I'm being honest here, not trying to be, where he has said that there are people, there are traders who trade the first hour and the last hour. So there are some days where there's nothing I can call this, but greed gets the best of me, and probably gets the best of you too, truth be known. And I'll go back in at 3 o'clock, and I'll try to make some more money in Apple or Alibaba or Netflix or Tesla or Boeing or American Airlines or something like that. And invariably, just about every time, I wind up giving back some of the money I made that morning. Not all of it, because I stop before it gets that bad. And so then it'll be another 3 or 4 weeks before I try and do 3 o'clock trading again, because it just consistently loses me money. Now, why do I do that? I don't know. Why do people have any kind of habit? I don't know. Why do people smoke cigarettes? Why do they drink liquor? I mean, why do they gamble? I don't know. But I do. I've done it before, and it's hard to break, and I've tried to break it, but that's essentially what I do after the first hour. Exercise, take a shower, make me some lunch, watch Netflix, Amazon Prime.
It's interesting, though, because now you mentioned Boeing and American Airlines, and yesterday the two of us had a conversation where the question was, well, I'm trying to diversify a little bit because Apple's been slowing down a little, so I've added Boeing, I've added American, and I said, well, how'd that work for you? I said, I'm willing to bet your returns actually declined. And you said, yeah. And then we got into talking about this, and this is something a lot of you do, especially when you've been successful with a strategy. You try to find more things you can fit into that strategy instead of spreading out a little bit. So over the course of a week, the aha moments that Bibbs and I had was he's going to have to go back and add back in the XRVs and add in his Baltimore chops, the two ST opening gaps, because what's happening is by trying to expand on just the one thing you like or that you're comfortable with, right? What you do is really just put yourself in front of the volatility that's highly correlated with Apple in this case. And since Apple has a little bit of a narrowing volatility profile right now, these other stocks do as well. And you really don't wind up getting any more out of it than you would if you just stuck with the core thing, and then you're trading stocks you don't really know that well, and you're trying to double down on them, and you're trying to get sort of bigger share size because they're cheaper. And it makes it harder. And this is something I've talked to probably every one of you about over the years, is when you're diversifying in intraday trading, you need to diversify by strategy, not by symbol. Because if you're trading consumer discretionary stocks, they're all going to move the same. If you're trading consumer durables, they're all going to do the same thing. The banks are all going to do the same thing. The oils are all going to do the same thing. And there's
in this case, the airlines.
Right, and there's just not setups in all these things. And it's only of value when an airline like Boeing or a manufacturer like Boeing a couple of weeks ago had a big outlier, a big outlying news event. The 737 MAX was going to come back into production. Everybody jumped on that, and it looked like Boeing was in play, and it was going to stay in play, and nobody really focused on, well, this is an irregular event, and maybe we can trade it today, but over the course of the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I think everybody's seen a bunch of folks in the room just sort of sticking to that trade, waiting for it to come back again, as if it's going to happen. It must happen again. It just happened. I just made money in it. I've got to be able to make money in it again. But I think, the takeaway from this is, so it wasn't just Bibbs. It was Bibbs and his lovely better half, Courtney, who came to boot camp. They're both doing really well. But
Courtney's doing better than I am right now.
Right, and they both have very different approaches. And Courtney's approach has been slow and steady wins the race since I've known her. Since I've known Courtney, it's, I studied everything in the manuals. I studied everything in the volatility band course. I studied everything in the opening gap course. I studied everything. I see how it works. I see what you're trying to teach. I'm going to take that back and layer it in slowly.
Courtney's phrase now is the little engine that could.
Yeah.
You don't have to make $1,000 every day. Make $300 or $400 every day and quit.
Just be consistent.
Right.
Right. So that's the takeaway here. I think the reason this guy has been able to come in and just pick up the ball and run with it is, even though he would tell you he was focused on the money, really what he was focused on was developing a skill and then being consistent. The money was a byproduct of consistency and talent, and really I think that's what everybody needs to focus on.
Because one of the things that I was worried about, that I'm sure a lot of you will worry about it at some point in time, may have already worried about it. Once I got used to getting the trading plan every night, early in the morning from Adrian, and I was making money at it, I was thinking to myself, now what am I going to do if he falls off a cliff out there in Pacific Palisades and dies? Then how am I going to, or in a car accident, take your pick. We all die. We're going to die, so there's no reason that we can't talk about it.
I can't wait.
It's a fact of life. So I needed to find a way that I would be able to do this myself, and that's where boot camp and the Income Trading Academy come in. If he had something happen to him overnight, and Julie didn't want to do this anymore for whatever reason, I can't imagine one, like going and having fun, without trying to put a plan together and run the room every day. Not that she doesn't enjoy that, but, and I'm not talking for her. You can use the tools in the Income Trading Academy and apply them to just about any stock out of the thousands of stocks in the market. You can apply it to Apple, you can apply it to Tesla, you can apply it to Netflix, you can apply it to American Airlines, you can apply it to Wendy's. You just have to work through the technical aspects of it. Now, how do you do that? It's in the Income Trading Academy, so buy it.
Well, there you go. That's a good piece of advice if I ever heard one. That's your legal advice from Bibbs. I'll say nobody's hoping that I'm not going to die more than me.
Me either. I'm just saying that as a what if. What if?
That aside, I think this is all great stuff to take away, and I just really appreciate you sitting down and sort of going through your experience with us. I know a bunch of people have been wondering, about who this guy is or where he came from or how he got so proficient at this, and I think this is a good look under the hood and maybe a kick of the Bibbs tires here.
Well, who I am, where I'm from is very easy. I'm from North Carolina, born and raised. Went to University of North Carolina for college and stayed there for law school. Graduated in 95 and live there still today. And of course, before I leave, I want to thank Adrian and Julie and Connor for a very wonderful week in Southern California. They've been very hospitable. We've had a great time. We had a great little reception / party / wine and cheese last night here at their house, and so it was very lovely, and I thank the folks who came. And for those of you who didn't come, you missed a great thing. So thank you, Adrian.
All right, well, thank you. All right, guys, I hope that you found that helpful. I know I found it helpful. And somebody out there, one of you, is up next. Whenever you're down here, I'm going to wrangle you in and get you on camera. And the rest of you folks just got to know Bibbs a little better.